5:01. We'll call this HR meeting to order. So we'll go around in attendance here. So we'll start with City Attorney.
Sue Schill, City Attorney.
Paul Vollert, Public Works Superintendent.
Dean Benjamin, Alderman.
Justin Pluis, Alder.
Jake Kavanaugh, Alderman, District 5.
Dennis Pollock, District 6 Alderman.
Michael Tim, District 7 Alderman.
Jake Klinkforth, Park and Building Superintendent.
Ben Goodrow, Fire Chief.
Matt Zackermeyer. Ryan Hartman, Human Resources Manager.
Tim Sorcy, Finance Director.
All right, number 2 on the agenda, discuss and consider for approval referral from Alderperson Pluis for the addition of 3 permanent full-time firefighter paramedic positions within the fire department. See attachment referral number 1 and tier 13 requisition request from Fire Chief Woodrow. So this would be the same requisition that was discussed and approved, or not approved, sorry, discussed at the Finance Committee for these 3 additional firefighters in response to the EMS contracts being negotiated this last fall. Any discussion on these 3? Something that's had a lot of. Fire Chief Goodrow, do you want to add anything to the requisition?
I don't think I have any unless the committee or you yourself, Mr. Chair, have anything.
I don't have anything. I see it's been signed by the mayor, Human Resource Director, and yourself. So with that, I make a motion to approve the 3 permanent full-time firefighter paramedic positions for the fire department. Oh, go ahead, Jake. No.
Is it okay to discuss with the motion on the floor?
Yeah, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you make a motion and there's discussion. Yeah.
I'll second the motion. I think you have to have a second to discuss.
Allow discussion. Okay, so we got a motion by myself, a second by Alder Pollock, and we'll open up for discussion.
All right, thank you. So we took this up on finance last week, or the potential funding for this. At that time, I stated that it needed to go to HR before we would talk about financing it. So now it's here tonight for approval. I just did want to make a comment that, what was done with the contracts and what I disagreed with are, to me, a completely separate issue than these 3 positions being added. Although I didn't agree with the contracts because the council did approve them and that's what happened. There is a need for these positions there to maintain those contracts and deal with the call volume. So they're 2 separate issues to me. And I, those guys and gals down at the station, they need the help, and I don't blame them for decisions of the politicians I disagreed with. So I look at them as 2 separate issues.
All right. Anybody else? I'd just like to add, I feel that this is a win-win situation. The surrounding communities are paying their fair share towards EMS services. At the same time, the city of Wisconsin Rapids gains, additional firefighter paramedic stationed within our city limits. When these personnel are not actively responding to EMS calls in the surrounding areas, they remain available for the city to assist with fire responses and medical calls here in the city and other emergencies. So I do feel that this is a win-win. Any other comments or discussion? So we got a motion on the floor to approve these 3 positions. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 3-0. Moving on to agenda number 2, or 3, sorry. Lost my agenda. Oh, sorry, thanks. Discussion and consider for approval a request to fill an administrative assistant position vacancy in the Public Works Department. This position was not budgeted in the 2026 budget. See attachment, administrative assistant streets requisition request, which I have here in front of me. I guess I'll ask Mr. Voller to elaborate on this request.
Yeah, so it was originally put in the budget, and then on the last week or whatever of discussions and things like that to come up with the budget shortfall, that's when that position was removed. We've since had three retirements of staff members that have been there for 25 plus years. And so in the handout that you were given today, there is showing the reduction in wages. That's the colored copy one that was on the top of the page. Tim DeSorcy put together the second page of the second and third page showing, so the document that I put together originally was just showing the wages. It wasn't including any of the benefits or anything like that. Then Tim went through and calculated insurance and other fees and such like that or whatever. Came up with a slightly different number, but then in 2027, it's showing another budget impact for the 2027 budget. One of the things that I don't question Tim's numbers whatsoever. He's a very sharp person and has, I'm pretty sure he's right with this, but some of the shortfall is like $65,000, and some of that is strictly paying the retirees' health insurance that he's showing going against this number or whatever, which that's pretty close to $60,000 in itself or whatever. Again, Tim's the numbers guy, so how he does that is how he does it. So also included there is just the daily, weekly, monthly, annual things that this person does on an annual basis. And so just simply requesting to fill this position.
Go ahead, Alder Ketno.
Yep, okay. So because of the 3 retirements, the total unused labor, or what is not going to be used in the budget anymore besides paying for their retiree benefits, is the $67,974.
That's what I came up with. Tim went through and did it, including the insurance and ILC and everything like that. And I think he came up with that we are short $3,000.
Okay.
But it's, and sorry, Jake, or Alderperson Catna, I did misspeak. So I have 3 retirements, and then I had another full-time employee terminate his employment. So in essence, altogether, there's 4.
Okay. So, well, first question, is the plan to still fill those positions that just opened up and then add this as well?
That is what I was told is that because they were budgeted positions, that it was acceptable to fill those.
And then add this on. So where does that put us financially then? Or is it in here somewhere, or what am I?
Yeah, that's like I said, according to Tim's number, we are going to, if we were to fill this administrative assistant position as well, we would be short, making some assumptions on the positions that are being full or filled with the insurance and things like that, that we would be short $3,300. And again, that's making assumptions that we're going to fill these positions by April 13th. So again, some of those are going to probably maybe push back based off of, where we are in life here of the beginning of the second week of March. So that may not be a viable option anymore from when this was originally submitted.
Tim?
Sure. I mean, I think for the 26 budget with, obviously, the ones that are retiring or whatever at the top end or pretty close to the top end of the wage scale. And obviously when we hire a new person, they start at lower, so there is a savings, obviously, in, the labor dollars there. However, when you have an employee retire, the ones that are eligible for insurance is, in this case, with the 50% contribution from the city plus their accumulated sick leave, we end up now paying 100% of the retirees' health insurance, plus then we got to pay, obviously, the new hires, whatever plan they select. Within this, obviously, right, there's some assumptions of start dates and what health plan that they select, the new hires or whatever. In the 26 budget, yeah, the numbers work, but I look at not only the current year, but okay, what next year, because now the new hires are going to start 1/1 of 27, work the full year, of the 5 positions. That would be the 4 vacancies in the street department plus the administrative assistant. But we're also continuing to pay the retiree health insurance, and that's where it shows that on that second page, where you have 27 budgetary impact of $65,000 deficit, so that you have to come up with, to maintain those 5 positions, you have to come up with an additional $65,000. So you're kind of, you have the savings here created by the start dates and the wage rates, but then when you look at the next fiscal year, it paints a little bit different picture.
Okay, so I guess my concern is the only way we were able to balance the budget this past year, November, was by not funding this position, some other positions, and not doing the COLA, which is all on the agenda tonight. So if all this goes through, and we're expecting a larger deficit just by default of union wages and health insurance and increase across the board through inflation and materials and equipment, how are we gonna get the budget balanced? Because my concern is, like, of course, I mean, we want everybody to have all the help they need, but we get to the end of the year and a position like this is filled, and then there's a person in the seat and we got to let that person go, I guess, is my concern. Just a few months ago it was, what do we got to do to keep everybody here that's employed here, and that not funding this is one of the things. So if it passes HR tonight, then it's open and Paul can hire and it's good to go, or it's still going to go through finance? Okay. Because if there's new roles and duties and job description, I mean, I don't have a problem approving the position, and then we're just gonna have to look at the financial impact on.
Excuse me, no, I shook my head incorrectly. It wouldn't go back to finance. It's a replacement position, so if it's filled at the HR level, then it would be on the agenda for council next Tuesday.
To approve the position, but we still would have to do a budget amendment? Right, okay, so, yeah, okay. Yeah, so, I mean, the position's there, it's been there, I have no problem with it staying there, because if we have the funding, no problem funding it, but that's just where I don't know if we're at right now. But if it's there, I have no problem keeping it there from an HR standpoint as a position in the street department. It's just whether we can fund it or not. I mean, we're gonna have to look at the numbers.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. If this passes council, at what point would you start advertising for this position? Would you wait a month or two, or?
Well, I guess it would depend on what the motion of the council would be, if it was effective as of a certain date. But on its surface, as it is now, if it was approved at council, we'd post the next day, so next Wednesday.
Okay.
and start recruiting, and then it would be probably at least a good month out by the time you post for 2 weeks, then you spend the next couple weeks or week doing interviews, and then if it's a individual that has a current job, then they will likely give a 2-week minimum notice. So we're looking at reality 5 to 6 weeks probably.
Go ahead, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is going to veer a little bit off of the exact topic here, but I would encourage everybody to think about also, this is something I've been talking about and sharing with other people, that my assumption, and I hope I'm wrong, that our budget's going to continue to shrink over the next couple of years, especially as we're figuring out some of the bigger issues that we're faced with. We do have an option. Once we bring in administrative personnel and put them in underneath the department, their job specifically is to work then for that department. And I think that there's room, in my understanding and talking to department heads, that there's some room to, what I would say, create an administrative department that is working for the entire organization, and then they are getting specific tasks working with customer service, first of all, but then also within the departments, what is needed specifically for those departments, and work on it more as a project-based type system, making sure the departments have, their short and long-term needs accounted for and completed. Bigger project stuff as a community where we're, working together interdepartmentally. And then a big one is just customer service, making sure that, they all have a good understanding as to the overall workings of the organization, and being able to answer, phone calls, questions, and working with the public and making sure we do a good job there. So there is a bigger direction we can go in, and I'm just throwing out there right now to think about as we decide on this. Thank you.
I think we have really great department heads that run their individual departments in the city and do great work for the citizens of Wisconsin Rapids. So I think we got to put some trust in our department heads, and I trust that Mr. Vollert wouldn't come forth with this request if it wasn't a position that was greatly needed. So I support this as well, and I give you, Mr. Vollert, credit for finding ways to make this, economically feasible in this year. And I trust that, come 2027, when we have to look at budgets again, you'll be creative and find ways to fund this position again. So with that, unless anybody had any comments yet, Mr. Catnall, go ahead.
Yeah, I think we got a few department heads here, but I would just say, if we put someone in this role potentially, or we go another direction, just adding personnel in general, when we get the budget time, and we're going to be short, would you be comfortable with if we came and said it's got to be a 5 to 10% reduction overall? If you want to keep everybody, you got to figure that out. Or if the council made a decision like this is the position we got to eliminate. That's what I want to avoid, is that there's someone in the position, and then come budget time we got to eliminate it for 2027. So I guess would you be comfortable with that, or how would you go about doing that? Because you guys do your own budgets and then submit them forward. So
I guess truthfully, I feel in the 2026 budget that I did that. Public Works was cut, I think it was almost $250,000 by adding this $80,000 position to that. But I did it prior to, the meeting that you were part of. Since 2012, since 2000 to 2017, we lost 10 positions in our department. In 2012, we lost another position. 2014, we lost another position. 2026, we lost another position. In 2022, I had a supervisor that wasn't willing to do the job by himself because of how much it was. So we had to take a full-time staff position from the work group and give that up in order to get that second position. And then here in 2026, we lost that other position. I'm not here to look at other departments or point other departments or anything like that. That's not what I do. That's not who I am. But also, 2016, there was a Director of Public Works position that was added, and then I believe it was in 2022, may have been 2023. That position was also eliminated from Public Works. So I'm pretty confident to say that we run a pretty lean ship. At the same time, you know, we've done more work than what we've done prior to 2015. You know, we started a mill and fill program that will not be funded probably this year. I'm going to ask for it, but the funding source that we had went away with the transportation utility. Yeah, I'm questioning whether or not to fill this, but guess what? I'm done working 60 hours a week. You know, because I believe you said in a council meeting that no department head said that there was going to be affections of these cuts. Well, there's still work that's being, I might have misspoke, I'm sorry, but I did not come to you. I will say that I did not come to you because I didn't find out about it until watching the council meeting on TV. You know, but there's work that needs to be done there. It's already cost the city about $2,500 because we missed a grant opportunity by a day. So, yeah, I'm not confident, but there's stuff that has to be done, and there's stuff that's not getting be done because I'm doing administrative stuff.
Okay, and you are correct that every year when we do the budget, I mean, you are great in reducing where you can and bringing it forward. It's more a general question as we talk about adding positions of when we get to that point of putting people in these positions, and it could be the street department, it could be elsewhere. And there's people in those, and then we got to look at getting rid of the people instead of not funding the positions. And I think that's what we're looking like at, and that's why I'm hesitant. But you know, if you know that's what you have going forward, and you're gonna bring your budget forward next year, then I mean that's where we'll be at, and we'll have to make a decision at that time of what everybody's gonna have to do.
One other thing that I failed to say is, as part of this, the salary piece of it, we have a full one LTE position that we originally, or what used to be two, we asked to create that as a full-time position, but it just got budgeted as an LTE position. Part of that $23,000 annual funding was going to go to fund this position as well.
Okay.
Justin? Matt or Tim, how many positions do we still have open? Assistants or anybody?
Currently, in 2026,
Yeah.
as of today, we just learned we will have 7 people that started employment in 2026, and 7 will be leaving by April. All
So-
departments.
Okay.
And now as far as the 3 positions that we're not budgeted
Yeah.
for, is if you're referring to that,
Yes.
this is just one of those.
One of the 3, okay.
Correct.
So, I mean, is there an option, Paul, do you see kind of where Matt's going with it? That maybe it's not completely full-time at Public Works, but can help out in other assistant duties, or is that job 100% 40 hours a week?
I have a hard time with some of that. There are, this person on a monthly basis, it can't be, in my opinion, for my department, it cannot be a rotational thing, because this person has to have a Class A fuel license, because every single month we're different, where we have our own fuel system, and there are monthly reports that have to be turned in, and part of that system is having that, you know. another thing that was added to these job descriptions is the engineering department has administrative work that this person is also being responsible for. And then currently wastewater treatment plant is doing what our administrative assistant department did for them as well. So there hasn't been any conversation whether or not that person would continue those tasks or not. But again, it's not strictly answering phones. There's other administrative things, you know, that you'd see in that packet.
Thank you. Yeah, I just worry a little bit about what Jake's saying. Looks fine for 2026 because it only costs us X, and then we come to the next budget. Now we're like, you know, either having to cut positions or take away from something. So, but if you're saying it's 100% needed, it's a full-time position, then I'm for it.
Well, I guess another option, you know, to save on some money, it's more of an HR question, I guess, is there has to be some point of break line that if they work X amount of hours, 28, 32, that you don't necessarily have to pay benefits or something like that, where we could hire them on a part-time basis with the possibility of it going to full-time or something like that. But I don't know, that's, again, not my bobber, so I don't know where that break point is.
Go ahead, Skip.
So in this job description, you mentioned wastewater and engineering. Is that in here? So hypothetically, if this position comes on board, they become administrative assistant for all three of those departments, but wherever they're stationed, I don't know. But you mentioned that's something and that was done prior, or is that built into the job description and what this person would be doing?
I know the wastewater piece of it was built into it. I believe we had it as part of the job description, because this was approved, we went through, advertised it, interviewed, background checks and everything, and then that's when we were told to hold on it. So I'm pretty sure, again, it's part of the packet that I gave you. It's the last documents, the last document as to the stuff that Joe Eichstead wanted them to have them do.
Do they contribute to your budget then for that service? Is there, like, shouldn't some of it come out of each?
Yeah, so when they went to the wastewater commission meeting, they would charge time to wastewater. There was a cost account that was charged to. It was like 3 hours a month.
What about for these duties?
I don't know if Joe had that budgeted or not,
So
because we never filled it, so.
would you be open to that though, if we looked at a position that was, whatever you want to call it, administrative assistant to engineering, streets, wastewater, and we built in different responsibilities to that position, and then the position was budgeted across departments? Okay.
Yeah, well, you know, the biggest thing happened is, I think we're year 2, Tim, on RT Vision, or 3. So there was a change in activities where we went to a digital timesheet. Prior to that, the administrative assistant had to input it into a software, 30-some people every single day. And so we put this RT Vision into place, I believe, in 2023, 2022, last 3 years. And so there was a savings in time, or elimination of time and duties. It just so happened that was at the exact same time that we were moved over here from City Hall, and the exact same time that the previous administrative assistant had her second child. And so we never really got on board with filling in those responsibilities. There's other things that if we were back over at the garage that person could do, helping out, you know, some of these positions created a like 1.25 job, 1.5, and those activities are part of the job description that, you know, I will make definitely sure that this person has 40 hours of work.
So if we salaried this person and we built in to the job description the responsibilities that they would have for streets, engineering, and wastewater, and then that Tim could potentially be divided throughout their budgets. You'd have to figure out, what percentage of time they're spending on what, but that is possible. Okay.
Yeah, and some of these jobs are reimbursable by our recycling grant that we get every single year. Because of her administration time of putting together the reports, the monthly the monthly numbers and everything like that, that gets reimbursed by the recycling grant as well,
Okay.
as does mine.
Well, I'll be in favor of it if we structure it that way, where they're serving, streets, engineering, wastewater, and we kind of we're building up that capacity to serve multiple areas. However, if it's not in the job description right now, does approving it as is that, or do we can approve it as is and then come back, or should we wait?
I think HR.
Couple of things, yeah, just one thing to add. You mentioned making it a salaried position. I don't know in what dynamics you meant that, but this position, as it stands today, even adding these duties would still be classified as an hourly position based on labor law. So it'd still be an hourly position. I guess my take on it would be that, you can approve to fill the position, and then for the HR meeting in April, you'd need to bring back job description changes to that job.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point, actually.
What?
You'd most likely want to have an accurate posting out for that job description, so, so you'd maybe be pushing it back a month.
So revise the job description to include what I discussed, and then
Whatever.
potentially, and then my second question is, why couldn't this be salaried and then budgeted out through the 3 departments?
Well, I think it can still be displaced through the 3 departments,
Okay.
but it would be an hourly position based on.
He mentioned, was it timesheets or some software? I just didn't know if that was going to complicate it by this person having to worry about clocking their hours as they're doing the tasks all day of 3 different departments. Like, I got to clock out of streets and clock into engineering.
Yeah,
Okay, all right.
And I don't know, honestly, I think the job descriptions are so generic enough that it just strictly says administrative staff or tasks and reports. I don't know that it has to wait another month.
That's the comment I was going to make is we have a nice, long description of different tasks that are specific, but these aren't what would be included in a job description. The job description would be more generic, like what Mr. Voller said, administrative tasks. So I think that can be, included in the final job description of when it goes to get posted. But I think as far as tonight, we can make a decision on whether we're willing to fill this position or not. And it sounds like there's enough work to go around, and there's intent to include other departments, to include tasks from other departments into this role of this person. So I don't know if we have to necessarily push it back.
Okay, so it was just said that we should revise it before posting the job. Is that correct, Ryan?
That was my suggestion, just to have the most accurate description. But if we're posting, if the duties, and I'll be honest, I was just looking primarily at, are we replacing the position as, had been talked about. I would have to refresh and see what those exact duties that would be changing were. I don't anticipate it changing a pay grade or anything.
Right.
Because then that really takes us to a different realm. And if it was generic enough, yes, a posting could go out, but I do think it would be advantageous to still bring an accurate, even revised job description back to HR. But I don't know if it would necessarily hinder posting it, prior to. But Sue might have a different take on it. She's the.
Well, I was just thinking, that person already does they took minutes for wastewater, right? And helped out engineering. They were the desk person there, right? So it probably is pretty general, but I mean, I would suggest that if there are really any changes that you would really like to make because the current job description does not capture, kind of the more inclusiveness of the other departments, that could just be brought back to the council in 2 weeks as part of HR and to be agreed to at that time, or have an HR meeting before council. But I guess I don't really hear anything that's that much different than what that position has been doing for some time. But I'm not sure about all the engineering parts of it. If there's some specific skills or that might be required for that. I think it's more, I guess I'm not sure what the engineering part of it is.
So hypothetically, could a job description be created by common council to be included in some type of approval for this? Is that
Yes.
a couple weeks from now?
I think Paul and I can meet this week and just go over finalizations, because again, I probably haven't looked at it since, if he made minor changes to it back in August of 2025 when it originally came about. I think that's when he signed the requisition, so we can meet on that this week and tidy it up for council. And if you prefer to have another one before, HR meeting before council, we can. Otherwise, we can just do it at council as Sue suggested.
I guess that depends on how it if you can email the job description as soon as you get it. I mean, I would really like to see the job description go out as, an administrative position wherever they're housed, but that, it is that they are that for wastewater, engineering, and streets. And then when it gets posted, whoever gets hired in that position knows that that's what their duties are. They don't think they're working for the street department and all of a sudden wastewater and engineering are hitting them with a bunch of stuff. And then, of course, on the budget end, we can spread that out.
So what I'm kind of hearing is you want to wait till there's a more updated job description before there's any action today.
So if we're waiting until council, this item being on the agenda itself, we kind of talked about this at finance, but it makes it so there's a window there to approve it at common council regardless of what happens at committee. So there doesn't have to be, I mean, the specific motion, if we were looking for one, the one I would make, and I mean, I'm hoping to do it right now, but would be to direct the HR director to create an updated job description for administrative position for the engineering, streets, and wastewater departments. But I don't know, I mean, if that even formally needs to be done, but if we would like to make a motion, we could do that, but it's all subject to change at council anyways.
So is that your motion?
Yeah, I guess I really don't care to wait till June. I mean, that's my thing. So if we can, well, yeah, sorry, that's my bad. I'm way ahead of myself. We can get the job description done in a day or two. It's not gonna be a big deal, so.
Do you need a formal motion to do that? I believe you guys are gonna do it.
I think we can just take no action right now.
Yeah.
And discuss this at council. And by then, at council, we'll have an updated job description to be included in the council packet.
All right.
Okay. All right. Moving on then to item number 4 on the agenda. Discuss and consider the approval of referral from Alderperson Pluis to approve a cost of living adjustment COLA or supplement increase for the non-representatives of the city for 2026. See attachment where there is cost of living adjustments for comparables. When we went through the 2026 budget process, we originally, had a wage increase in there for the employees in 2026. But balancing the budget was difficult, and at that time, the discussion at the council was to eliminate that cost of living increase for the city employees, and there was discussion that we would have a clearer picture of the city's financial position after the 2025 budget had come to a close. So that's why this is for us tonight. We've had time to evaluate, our finance directors had time to evaluate the 2025 budget, and give us an idea of what monies were left over, and the intent we can consider a cost of living increase for the city employees. There's, to my understanding, several city employees that are making less today than they were 1 year ago because of the costs of insurance going up and their wages staying the same. So I guess I'd like to have a good discussion on this and see what we can do to, treat the employees who are our number one asset as far as, providing services to the citizens. We wouldn't be able to do that if it wasn't for the employees. So, Mr. Catno.
Thank you. Tim, for a supplemental increase or a lump sum, we had talked about this at budget time. Do you have any numbers on what like 3% would look like if we did a lump sum for 2026?
Sure. A 3% lump sum would be about $274,000 of just wages, and then you obviously have the associated roll-ups on that for Wisconsin retirement, FICA, workers' compensation.
Even if it's considered like a bonus?
Right, yeah, you
goes
still
up?
pay
Okay.
WRS on it. And
Where does that look in our budget? I mean,
well, I kind of handed out a sheet here that kind of went through, the different scenarios of various COLA scenarios going from 1% to 3% and what that would cost. Right now in the contingency account, we have about 101,000. That's assuming that, 66,000 is transferred from the EMS fund for, if you remember, and I think I explained this at finance when we originally put that budget together, it was assuming that no contracts would be renewed. And so the levy was set in that fund after going through and factoring in the 3 new hires that were approved and stuff. We have about 66,000 additional that would transfer back into the general fund contingency account. So that leaves us about $101,000 of that. About approximately 27,000 was budgeted in contingency for a possible increase in our incidental labor rate, and that's the rate that we apply to distribute benefits throughout the budget for the cost system employees, that being the street, engineering, park, and wastewater. And the reason why that was left there, because depending on what was done for any wage adjustment in 26, that percentage, the calculation of that percentage can change. So, and then also looking in through our open enrollment, we had a number of health insurance plan changes that occurred as of 1/1 that weren't factored into the budget. So right now, we have a benefit increase without any COLA of about, in adjusting for that ILC, of about $148,000 cost for those benefit changes. And basically, the tax levy impact for that, now what I mean by tax levy impact, the impact on the funds that are partially funded by the general property tax levy, that's about $101,000. $46,000 is being charged to other funds that other than tax levy, so like our wastewater sewer use fee, our stormwater utility fee, work done in the tax incremental district, so that's being funded by those revenue sources. And then as you go through the different scenarios, like say, I'll just pick one, like say if it was like, let's just do you mentioned 3%, it's a $274,000 wage increase. Benefit costs are going up $188,000, of which $148,000 of that is attributed to what I just spoke to with the benefit changes. So you have a total cost of $463,000. So the impact on the tax levy funds is about $305,000, and then $158,000 for other funding sources. So you can see there, as far as the tax levy funds, you're looking at with only 101,000 in contingency, you have about a $203,000 deficit, which would not be able to be funded, not funded by the tax levy, that would have to come out of reserves. Now, if it's in the shape, if that 3% is in the form of a cost of living adjustment and builds into the base, you'd have to cover 203,000 from reserves. And then next year in the 27 budget, kind of similar to the other one, is then you have to fund that in the 27 budget plus whatever COLA you would have in the 27 budget. If it's in the form of a lump sum payment, then that would be taken out of reserves, but then it doesn't build into the base, so then it doesn't factor into the 27 budget. Only the 27 cost of living adjustment would then have to be funded in the 27 budget.
Okay, so we really got to stretch to do anything here. It sounds like but yeah, right.
Well, and then one of the things we did talk about, as far as, with, when that was taken out of the budget, we said we'd come back and look at it, whether we could do, we'd look at how our 25 operations looked and possibly using if we had a favorable operating year, using that for a lump sum, or, and based on, we're pretty much got final numbers. I'm sure there'll be some small adjustments, but I'm pretty confident. In the general fund, we had about a $280,000 operating surplus, and that was attributed to, we had some very strong investment earnings, but also throughout the year, we had some turnover. So by the time, when someone leaves, by the time you get their replacement, there's always a gap, and you save some money there on wages and benefits. So we have a $280,000 operating surplus in 25 that could be utilized to fund a lump sum type of payment.
Well, yeah. So, I mean, based on what Tim said, he well explained. I mean, a lot of numbers, a lot of detail. I understand it though. I'd be in favor of looking at like a 2.5% lump sum payment to employees, and then obviously as Tim said, the funds will have to be charged in different areas, and some will have to come out of contingency and all that stuff. So that's where I'm at. Not setting us up for, again, what I talked about before, is putting ourself over to the point we get to the budget in the fall, and I mean, really what we'd have to look at is getting rid of people. So trying to manage and do the part of rewarding employees for being good employees. I mean, choosing to work for the city and a lump sum payment, but not setting ourselves up where we got to let any of them go come budget time.
Mr. DeSorsi, you mentioned $280,000 surplus left from the 2025 budget. Where does that normally go when there's a yearly budget surplus?
It gets closed out. Any operating surplus or deficit in our general fund gets closed out to our reserves.
Reserves?
Yep.
Okay. Because, dipping in reserves, something that I don't normally like to do, but in this case, if we're taking, we're taking money that we wouldn't have normally had and applying it to providing some kind of cost of living increase. I mean, we see inflation has an impact on everybody, and so what we're trying to do right now is not provide a bonus for employees. I mean, we value our employees, we appreciate what they do, but this is just to fairly compensate them and try to somewhat keep up with inflation. So, I think 2.5% isn't a bad idea. I support that as well. In this year, because we're kind of playing catch up, if we did it in a lump sum this year, I guess I can understand that. But then, when it comes to 2027, we're looking at, an employee salary that's really, the same as at the beginning of 2027. It would be the same salary as the beginning of 2025. So we've still got to play catch up at some point.
Right.
Yeah. Timms.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think with your compensation plan, I mean, you know, this is, you know, if we were to do a lump sum, it's a one-off. But yeah, obviously it's something that you can't continue year after year otherwise in your compensation plan. But also, you know, with our compensation plan, you know, there are a number of employees that receive steps on an annual basis. I think in 26, as of 1/1/26, 55 of the 107 non-represented employees did receive some type of step increase, whether it's a 1.5, depending on where their scale, it could be range from 3% to 1.5. 22 employees will receive a step increase on 7/1 of a similar nature. So about 72% of the employees did get a step increase in 26.
And okay.
Thank you for bringing that up, and that's an important point. I don't know if everybody was here when we implemented the STEP program, but yeah, this is not typical of like a regular organization or business, or you know, we've built these raises in through the STEP program. So with no COLA, like Tim said, it's built into our compensation plan. So it's not exactly like it's not being adjusted for cost of living. It varies based on, you know, where they're at in the STEP program. But I mean, I'm in favor, like I said, 2.5% supplemental increase for the 2026, the lump sum. I don't know where everybody else is at, but through further discussion, or if it's done, when it is, I'll make that motion.
I got a little more discussion because I want to bring up, you know, the comparables that are in the attachment. So when we look at comparables from comparable communities near us, we see the cost of living adjustments are a common practice. Our represented employees here within our city for internal comparable purposes, the WR, PPA, and the IFF agreements, they're both receiving 4% increases. Now they don't get the steps, but that's still a 4% increase in cost of living. And then you got the city of Stevens Point that's providing a 2.64% COLA with steps as well. Wood County is providing as of July 1, they're going to provide a 2% with steps included. So we have comparables right here in our backyard and even within our city that will still receive a higher cost of living increase than what we're kind of talking about right now. So I don't disagree with the 2.5, but I almost feel like it still doesn't do adjust, especially when we're trying to keep up with inflation. Mr. Just
Okay, I guess I have two comments. You know, one is like, you know, if we're gonna do a lump sum, do we want to make it effective as a certain date? Like employed at this date, because, you know, because we had people that, you know, left employment already, but, you know, theoretically, this is a lump sum for the entire year. So I don't know if you want to say like, you know, everyone employed as of this date gets that. Also, you know, I was kind of thinking, Ed, you know, and you know, because we have the compensation plan that allows steps, but, you know, I think there's another group, the elected officials aren't in that compensation plan. So they're not eligible for any step increases like that. So I was wondering if we carve them out, and maybe if it's a 2.5%, that theirs is a COLA builds in the base because they're not allowed to have step increases. You know, their salary is set, and then usually what the practice has been, whatever the wage adjustment for the non-reps were, that's was applied to elected, and if that's something to be considered.
Mr. Tim?
Yeah, not to beat this too much further, but, you know, obviously our employees are the best part of the city, and there's no doubt about that. Trying to figure out this in a budget is extremely hard, just so people understand that. you know, we have a surplus, but then we won't have a surplus. And I think the, you know, the bonus part is kind of nice because then at the end of the year for budget for next year, we're not necessarily stuck. It's probably not the right word, but we're stuck with this increase, and then we're going to have to add on top of that. And now you're looking at cutting positions, like Jake said, or, you know, floating out a wheel tax or whatever it may be, where we're going to have to fund this. So it's definitely tricky. I see both sides. Personally, for me, I got a 0% COLA this year in the private sector. I know that doesn't necessarily mean anything here, but so it does happen. But I also think we need to compensate our employees a little bit. So I guess I'd probably be more in favor of the bonus this year. And, you know, let's look at it again in the fall and see where we're at. If there's something we can do to add on to give a higher increase, I'm all for it.
Tim, is there a way we could do, you know, let's say we decided on a 2.5% increase, and instead of being like a lump sum bonus, you would take what 2.5% would be and give that to them as a separate allocated amount bi-weekly.
Oh, so spread it out
So-
over their,
so-
I can look into that.
So for those that weren't here, they don't get this, you know, lump sum.
I see what you're
for-
saying.
And
So
if
they
somebody
leave,
leaves, yeah.
I'm sure our payroll system can handle something like that.
So with that, and I think it's a great idea, by the way, but I do think it complicates it to the point that I don't know if it can move forward. I mean, it seems like there's some work that would need to be done and then brought back. Or we gonna include all that in a motion?
I think we can include that in motion. I think it's just allocating a percentage and then how it would be paid out.
And for the start date, whenever, I mean, in the future, I'm projecting, you know, let's say April 1st. You will be able to have that in the payroll software by then.
I'm fairly confident, but I'll check with our payroll clerk. She's the one that knows the software intimately, so.
If
but,
not, we would backdate a little bit. So like if it's
Well,
effective April 1st, but it doesn't hit the software right away, then,
yeah, we'll figure it out.
Okay.
That's-
all right.
You want to make motion or you want me?
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
Motion to approve a supplemental increase for the year 2026 of 2.5% for non-represented employees on a biweekly basis effective April 1st. Sue, you're looking at me.
Well, I guess I was thinking if it's a bonus and then say, oh, you're getting a bonus, but you have to wait a year to get it. I mean, it seems, and just other 2 points. I would not advise that the people that have left the employment prior to the date that this is approved, that those people get anything, because that wasn't what was in existence at the time. I mean, we've had employees leave and then we don't go back and give them, like if the non-union wages weren't figured out until March and someone left in February, we don't go back and give them anything, so I wouldn't advise that. And then elected officials can be treated differently than, they can't be carved out to be given something different than what the general employees get, because that would be considered changing the pay during the term, and it's too late to do that. I know you weren't considering that, but I just wanted to make that point.
So effective April 1st would not backdate for those of people who have left. That was the motion, right?
Oh, right.
So
Yeah, sorry,
and then what you're saying for elected officials is you got to change it before an election.
Right. Right now, it basically says that the elected officials could receive the general cost of living or whatever that other employees, non-represented employees receive. So I would envision that the elected officials could get the lump sum because that's what everyone else is getting, and that's permissible. But to basically say, okay, now elected officials, you're going to get 2.5%, and non-represented are not going to get anything, then you're giving them something different, and that's not consistent with the ordinance and what the law would require. So, but I just wanted to make that point that the elected officials couldn't be treated differently, as was suggested.
And I think aldermen are left out of this in general, but I'm not going to add that to my motion because I don't know enough about that yet.
Mr. Pollock?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. If there had been a motion on this, I would not have voted for it simply because I think there's more information that's out there. It doesn't sound like this is entirely maybe fair for every employee that we're talking about. And I don't know, it just seems like we need a little bit more information at this point anyway, today.
Okay, well, I mean, I think we got, the information that we can make this a lump sum, right? And we can do it in a biweekly fashion, and we can exclude the employees that terminated employment prior to this decision, right? So I think all our bases are somewhat covered. So, but Jake, you did start with a motion. Do you want to repeat your motion since I think you got? Sorry.
I didn't write it down. So, yeah, I did. I didn't write it down, so I'll go from memory. But motion to approve a supplemental increase for the year of 2026 for non-represented employees of 2.5% biweekly, effective April 1st.
Okay, so we got a motion. I'll second that motion. And we can open up for some more discussion, I guess, on that motion.
So that's 2.5% on their full salary for that year, divided amongst just the last 7 months of the year? Or you're saying it's only 2.5% of their, let's say, what their salary is for April, then they get an extra 2.5%, and it just starts then?
Yeah, that was the motion.
The latter? So then it's
Well-
not even, it's like a 1 point?
No, I think it's the 2%, you would take their base wage, calculate what that 2.5% would be, and
For the
then,
entire year?
yeah,
Yes, okay, that
and then
was my question.
divide it out amongst the remaining payrolls.
So it equals a 2.5. Yep. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so we got a motion and a second. I guess all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. Motion passes 2-1. Okay, moving on to agenda item number 5, discuss and consider the approval of proposed changes to the pay rates for seasonal employees in the Parks and Recreation Department. See attachment, seasonal park and recs proposed wages. So, with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Klingforth.
Yep, thank you. So yeah, we're just looking at being comparable to the surrounding communities with their aquatic center, West End, Stevens Point, Marshfield. I believe Lincoln High School and the YMCA. We did add an extra $5,000 to cover this increase back in 2025 for the 2020 or 2026 budget. So we're just looking at adding looks like $1.50 to admissions concessions lead, and then starting off $1.50 extra higher from last year, lifeguards, and then head guards as well. And as we know it, there's a national, vacancy for a lot of lifeguards, so it's not just here in Wisconsin Rapids, but they are hard to come around, and so just something to entice them to stay or to start with us.
And correct me wrong if I heard you correctly, you already budgeted that amount,
Correct.
that $5,000
Yep.
amount is already budgeted for?
Yep.
Okay. Dennis, do you have anything? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I mean, I support this, and I think it's necessary to keep those positions open, but I will abstain from making a motion or voting since I have a child who would benefit from that, so I'm gonna abstain, but I would welcome any motions or, no? Yeah. Best to abstain. I figure it'd be safe if I did, so I'll abstain, but.
Well, I'll make a motion that we, move this on to the full council.
Okay, we got a motion. Second. Okay, so we got a motion and a second. I'm gonna abstain. All in favor, say aye. Passes 2-0. Right. And with that, brings us to item number 6, adjournment. So we'll consider this meeting adjourned at 6:07. Thanks.